So yeah, we'll start with the basic inequality. Okay, what is an inequality? It is essentially जो हमने quadratic equation में we have talked about domain, we have talked about range, right? So inequality helps you to find the range of variables. So for example, uh, let's take this as an example, right? And here I'll just talk about at least, and like there are multiple ways in which you can solve inequalities. A lot of books, a lot of videos, a lot of faculty gives their own method. I have my own method which I've been using since class 9th 10th. मैं same ही method use में लेता हूँ and this helps me. So basic inequality, just solve it, spend 15 seconds to it, and like comment your answers, and then let's discuss how do you solve the basic inequality, and then we'll talk about the concepts and all. ठीक है. See, cool. थोड़ा सा a few answers are correct, a few are not. चलो discuss करते हैं at least. This is the basic inequality. यहाँ पे if anyone has any doubts, please raise it right up front. Okay. Cool. So every question of inequality, you solve it using this method. If you already have a form like this, which is x plus minus a into x plus minus b is greater than or less than equals to or greater than equals to 0, right? Every equation you try to form it in this group, in this form. Once you have done it, also make sure that a coefficient of x is always 1, right? If it is say 2x plus a, divide every equation by 2. So it will be x plus minus a by 2, and then 2 को यहाँ पे नीचे ले जाके, because it is already 0, it won't really matter, right? So make sure that the equation is in this format where a coefficient of the variable is 1, right? And then once you have it, you just plot a line like this. Okay? Usme what you do is you try to find the zeros of this equation. What do you mean by zeros? Zeros are essentially these are individual terms of x, right? You start equating everything to 0. You equate it to 0, you equate it to 0. If you put x minus 3 as 0, you get x equals to 3. You just plot x equals to 3 here. Say this is x equals to 3, right? Say this is your x line, like a one-dimension x line, right? Second zero of this equation is x equals to minus 2. So x equals to minus 2 will be here. Someone has joined. Just a minute. Yeah. Right. So zeros of the equation are minus 2 and 3. You plot it very carefully. Of course, minus 2 will be on the left-hand side of 3. This is the basic x line, right? Then what you do, if the sign is greater than 0, right? If the sign is greater than 0, you always start from the right-hand side. And what you do is, if the sign is greater than 0, you take the first. See, so by plotting the zeros, you actually have 3 segments now. This is one segment less than minus 2. This is second segment, which is minus 2 to 3. And this is the third segment, which is greater than 3. Now, if you have to find the solution when the inequality sign is like greater than 0, then what you do is you start from the first, and then it always go in an alternate fashion. If the first segment is your answer, second will not be, and then a third segment will be your answer. So given there are only 3 segments, first and third segment becomes your answer if the inequality sign is greater than 0. If this particular inequality sign is less than 0, you start from the second segment. So the first segment won't be your answer. Second segment will be your answer. Again, third won't be your answer. If there would have been any fourth segment, that would have been your answer. So you start from the rightmost segment if it is greater than 0. If it is less than 0, you start from the secondmost segment. Again, it's not a rocket science. You can always go and prove it. See, here in this segment, right, you have a value where x is tending to infinity. Infinity is like, say, x is 10 crore. If x is a very high value, of course, this equation is going to satisfy, right? Because 10 crore minus 3 will be some positive number. 10 crore plus 2 will be a positive number. So multiplication of these two terms will be a positive number. So a very high value of x is always going to be a solution of this. Hence, the third segment has to be a solution of this. So that's how you can do it. Also, you can go and like, cross-check this. That in region minus 2 to 3, you have a value of x equals to 0. So you just put x equals to 0 here. Minus 3 into 2 minus 6. So this is less than 0. Hence, it is not a solution of greater than 0. But if this inequality would have been less than 0, this would have been the solution. Right? So based on this particular question, given it is greater than 0, my range of x is, I start from here, right? So x can be greater than 3 or x can be less than -2, right? So how do you write this? Minus infinity to -2. Why minus infinity to -2? Because if x is less than -2, the least it could be is something which is very negative, right? Minus infinity. Union 3 comma infinity, right? This is nothing but x greater than 3. This is nothing but x less than -2. This is how you write these equations. Why? Now, one important thing is whether it will be closed bracket or open bracket. Infinities always have open bracket. Why? Because infinity does not exist in real, right? This is like very high number. So given this number does not exist, you always have open brackets here by rule. -2 and 3 you will have open bracket because there's no equality sign here. If this equation would have been greater than equals to 0, then there would have been a closed bracket here, -2 and 3. But because there is no equality, so you will have open bracket. Again, equality means that the value of -2 also holds true. So if you put -2, it becomes equals to 0, but equals to 0 is not a part of your solution because this has to be greater than 0. So you will not include -2. Hence, you will have open bracket. Similarly, you will have open bracket. Okay. Yeah, that is the only rule in inequality. Is this funda clear with everyone? Any doubts in this? Perfect. I'm assuming everyone is like crystal clear with this method and use the same method. Even if you use some other methods, try to use the same format going forward. So maybe like a couple of more questions. If this would have been, say, what? X minus 2 into x plus 17 into x minus root 19 less than 0. How would you have done it? The zeros are what? -17, 2 and root 19. -17 will be the least one. So plot -17 here. Then 2 here. Root 19 is of course greater than 4. So root 19 will be something here. You have plotted, like you have already plotted it. So how many segments are there? 1, 2, 3, and 4 segments are there, right? Sign is less than. So you won't include this. You will include this. Then this is not included. And then this is included because there is less than sign. The value of x has to be minus infinity to -17 union 2 comma root 19. That becomes your answer. Here. So you just, so whatever equation is given, break it in terms of different factors, plot the zeros, start from the rightmost thing, have tick mark and cross, and then solve it. If this comes in CAT, right? This is one way to do it. If this comes in CAT, the best way will be look at the option, start putting values. So for example, clearly x can't be 2 because if x is 2, this will be less than, this will be equals to 0. So if you have 4 options in CAT and none of the option is none of these, there are definite values. You might as well just start putting values that, okay, x equals to 2 should not be my answer. So you just check the 4 options, which option has x equals to 2. Any option that has x equals to 2, you just cross it out. Okay. And if the options are not very similar, if the options are different and it is very easy for you to just go and put the values and check, that's the best way to do it. Okay. So one is this method. Second is this method. This method will work when you don't have none of these here and when options are not similar, if options are different. If options are similar, go by the standard method. Okay. And that call you will have to take based on your judgment on whether options are okay or not. Cool. Chalo. Let's move on to the next slide. Please do this. X minus 3 into x plus 5 upon x minus 1 less than equals to 0. Okay. Let's see. See. X minus 3 into x plus 5 upon x minus 1. In CAT, you don't have to copy this question again, right? You can directly write the next step so that you don't waste 10 seconds to copy the question. This is the question. Maybe first method, right? And you will tell me whether this method is right or wrong. Anything which is in denominator, I will just shift it on the right hand side. This will be multiplied by 0. So this will remain 0. So my equation is nothing but this. And if my equation is this, then I simply say -5. 3, it is less than sign. So I will have the second region, which is this. So answer becomes -5 to 3. I think this is what, Raman, you did, right? No, Raman. Okay. So, of course, here, because I'm multiplying this on the right hand side, so x can't be 1, because if x becomes equals to 1, then this is not even the domain. So at 1, there'll be an open thing. So -5 to 1 and 1 to 3. Can anyone tell me what is the problem in this approach? Why can't I do this?
So, because we don't know what is the sign of x minus 1. If it is positive, then the inequality will remain same, but it is negative, then the inequality will change.
Very good. Very good. So Raman, the only catch here is, see, you don't know whether this is a positive thing or a negative thing, right? If it is positive, you can cross multiply it. But if it is a negative thing, right? For example, -5 upon -1 is, see, 5 is equals to -5 upon -1, right? And this is, of course, greater than 0. Now, you can't simply say that -1 will go here and it will still be -5 is greater than 0. This is wrong. Because the denominator is negative, if you shift it to the right hand side, the sign of inequality changes. So if you multiply a negative number here, this will be the sign of the inequality will change, and this is what will happen. So here, given we don't know whether x is greater than 1 or less than 1, you can't simply do it here. So what do? You first of all make the denominator as a positive number. How do you make it as a positive number? This is already x minus 1, right? So if you just multiply numerator and denominator by x minus 1, right? You multiply this by x minus 1 and you also multiply the denominator with x minus 1. This becomes x minus 1 whole square. So once it becomes whole square, now I can surely say that this is always a non-negative number, right? So assuming, so x for sure can't be equals to 1 because then it won't be in my domain. So if x is not equals to 1, then this is always a positive number, and now I can go and multiply this and cancel it. So now in the new equation, my zeros are what? Zeros are -5, 1, and 3. And given it is less than equals to 0, my region will be this and this. So my answer will be what? -infinity to -5, because equality sign is there will be close bracket, union 1, x can't be 1, so there'll be an open bracket here, and 3 there'll be a closed bracket because there's an equality sign. This becomes my answer to this question. Everyone clear? So moving on, we solve this. Solve this. Again, a very simple question, right? See, what we have already learned is if the power of the expression is even, it's always non-negative, right? So x plus 5 to the power 4 is always greater than or equals to 0. So you don't even need to consider this thing. So this simply goes away. You don't need this expression. So what remains is power cube. Now, whether it's a single power or it is power cube, it does not matter because my way of solving it is I just need 0. So the expression is same as x minus 3 into x minus 1 greater than or equals to 0. Simple. 1, 3 greater than this, x minus infinity to 1 union 3 comma infinity. Perfect. Everyone clear with this? Shall we move on? Chalo. Let's follow this. Simple thing, right? Rule number 1 remains same. You just break the denominator in a fashion that we discussed, which is easy for us to observe. So this is nothing but x minus 5 upon, this is 5, this is 14, 7 and 2. So 7 minus 2 is this, right? So simply x plus 7 into x minus 2, right? This is 7x minus 2x, 5x, 7 into 2. 7 into minus 2 is 14. Greater than 0. Of course, you want it to be positive so that this does not, so that you can cross it. So you multiply it with x plus 7 and x minus 2. See, I'm doing it like this so that in exam, you don't write it again in a second line. Reduce the time. You can cancel it. The only thing is x can't be 2 and x can't be minus 7 because it is the denominator. So now you just plot it, -7, 2, and 5. While plotting, please take care that 5 minus 7, like arrange it sequentially. Minus 7 will be first, right? It is greater than 0. So you start with this is not there, then this is not there, right? So answer is minus 7 is not included. Union 2, union 5 comma infinity. That becomes your answer. Clear, everyone? So that covers the basics of inequality. Now let's solve some applications of this topic. All this one. And both the maximum and minimum values of this, of y. And x is a real number. See, whenever you have a question like this, right? Y is equals to some function of x, you need to find the values of it. And you have terms in numerator and denominator, and it is, say, in the form of, like, it is a non-linear equation, either a quadratic equation in x or a cubic and so on and so on. The best way to do it is you try to form an equation in x. This is an equation y equals to something of x, right? You try to form this equation in the form of x square plus some x plus 1 is equals to 0. So what I mean is, I'm just multiplying this, solving it, right? So y into x square, here it is in x square. So x square will be what? Y minus 1. And this now you can also learn on how do you solve things faster. X square multiplied by y, this is plus 1, this will go here. So x square ka coefficient will be y minus 1 plus x ka coefficient kya hoga? Minus y, and this will be minus 1. So minus x minus 1. So it is 1 plus y, and I'll take minus sign common. Minus x into 1 plus y. Please let me know if there is any calculation mistake here. Plus 1 into y is y, and this 1 will go here. Y minus 1 is equals to 0. So now this becomes your equation in x. Now, because when y is in the form of x, you can, and I told you that x is a real number. So if x is real, you know that the discriminant of this equation has to be greater than 0. If you want, if x is real, the discriminant here has to be what? Greater than equals to 0, right? So if d is greater than equals to 0, then what you do is you simply solve this particular quadratic equation and you will get a range of y. So what is d here? D is b square minus 4ac. This is what? Y minus 1 whole square. A and c are same, greater than equals to 0. This is a square minus b square. How b square? Because this is nothing but 2 into y minus 1 whole square. Right? So a square minus b square. A plus b into a minus b. A plus b kitna ho gaya? Y plus 2y is what? 3y. 1 minus 2 is minus 1. A plus b. Now what is a minus b? Y minus 2y is minus y. 1 minus of minus 2 is plus 3. This greater than equals to 0. Simplify this. मैंने कहा था coefficient हमेशा कर लो ये. So this is y minus 1 by 3. So it is y minus 1 by 3 into minus y plus 3. I said the coefficient को हमेशा 1 बनाओ. So divided by minus 1. This is y minus 3 because यहाँ से मैं minus common ले रहा हूँ, right? So if you take minus common, this will be minus 3. If you bring that minus here, the sign of the inequality will change. So this will be nothing but less than equals to 0. This is less than equals to 0. What are the roots for this? 1 by 3. 3. Sign is less than. So this is included. So y is what? Minus 1 by 3 to 3. So minimum value is 1 by 3 and maximum value is 3. Simple thing. Form an equation in x. Make these greater than equals to 0 and then solve it. The standard method applicable everywhere. Clear? Everyone with this maximum minimum कैसे निकालते हैं in such equations? You would see such questions in CAT or in mock. So make sure ऐसा question कभी भी आए, you know the method. This is how you solve it. Okay? Chalo. Moving on. Please tell me, what do you mean by modulus? What is the practical meaning of modulus? Mod x का क्या मतलब होता है? Yes, very good. So when you say mod x, you also write it as mod of x minus 0, which means x का 0 से distance. If this is your x line, right? This is 0, x का distance. If x is 2, उसका distance is what? 2. If x is minus 2, उसका distance is again 2, right? So you also take mod x as the distance of x from origin. अगर यही मैं ऐसे लिख दूं mod of x minus a, this implies distance of x from a, right? So depending on whether a is positive, negative, but if you plot a here, x is nothing but the distance from a. Okay, and this is very important to understand because you'll apply it in a couple of questions. So this is what it means, and these are like then simple things. If mod x is a, then x is plus minus a. If mod x is less than equals to a, right? See, इसका क्या मतलब हुआ? Mod x equals to a मतलब x का 0 से distance is a. So if this is 0, इसका distance is a. तो distance a यहाँ भी हो सकता है, यहाँ भी हो सकता है, right? Hence x equals to what? a n minus a. अभी if distance is less than equals to a, x का origin से distance अगर less than equals to a है, then of course x has to be somewhere in between this. So x has to be between minus a and plus a. If the distance is greater than equals to a, then x has to be here or here. Right? So yeah, just the graphical interpretation of modulus. All this. क्या पूछा है क्वेश्चन में? इसका मैक्सिमम वैल्यू निकालना है. These are different values. तो a minus b maximum कब होगा? When mod x is maximum and mod y has to be minimum. Right? तो इसका तो मिनिमम वैल्यू चाहिए मुझे और इसका मुझे मैक्सिमम वैल्यू चाहिए. तो देखते हैं. How do we solve this? Mod of 2x minus 5 less than equals to 9, right? So 2x minus 5 less than equals to 9 and greater than equals to minus 9, right? यही हमने पहले देखा था. This is how you break this equation. Minus 5 को यहाँ से हटा के 9 plus 5 is 14. Minus 9 plus 5 is minus 4, right? ये 2 है. तो this is what? Minus 2 हो गया और ये यहाँ 7 हो गया. So x is less than equals to 7, greater than equals to minus 2. तो modulus of x कितना हो गया maximum? 7. Similarly, modulus of y को अगर मुझे minimum करना है तो one way is mod y minimum. Like in an absolute sense, mod y का minimum value can be 0, which happens only at y equals to 0. So I'll simply check. अगर मैं y को 0 डालता हूँ, 7 is less than 21, it does satisfies. So yes, y 0 हो सकता है. अगर y 0 हो सकता है तो मैं सीधा यहाँ पे 0 डाल दूंगा. This is 7, answer becomes 7. This is how you do questions faster. Else, मेरा traditional method तो है 28, right? And this is what? 4y minus 7 less than equals to 21, greater than equals to minus 21. इसको solve कर लो, you will get some value of y. ठीक है? Mod of y minimum कहाँ होगा? You just try to compare it. अगर इसमें 0 included है तो mod y minimum will be 0. And hence you just say mod x minus mod y का maximum value is 7. ठीक है? And try to solve questions like very very fast. जैसे यहाँ पे एक क्वेश्चन डिस्प्ले हो, स्टार्ट हो जाओ, जल्दी से सॉल्व करना. ट्राई टू टेक एवरी क्वेश्चन इन द फॉर्म ऑफ अ टेस्ट. चलो, solve this. In CAT, if this question comes, I'll mark the answer in 2 seconds. That's the hint. You need to find the value of x. Good. Solve करने के साथ साथ observation skill has to be there in CAT. Question को feel लो थोड़ा कि क्या पूछा है, and then solve करने का try करो if needed. Perfect. Time up. No solution is the right answer. Simply जैसे क्वेश्चन देख लो, 6 is positive, ये हमेशा greater than 0 होगा, ये हमेशा greater than equals to 0 होगा, इनका सम हमेशा positive ही होगा. There is no way it can be 0, so there is no solution to this. Right? तो इसको subjective solve ही नहीं करना है. If you have to solve it subjective, how do you do it? Make 2 cases. पहला case is when x is 0, second case is when x is less than 0. यहाँ पे equation is this. यहाँ पे equation will be this. Solve करोगे and then you will figure out. इसको solve करोगे तो क्या आएगा? This is nothing but x plus 3 into x plus 2 equals to 0. So x is minus 2 minus 3, but वो हो नहीं सकता because x is positive. So It does not happen similarly here. But इतना टाइम नहीं लगाना है CAT में, right? Simply observe कर लो question को and mark the answer. Cool. Clear everyone? चले आगे बढ़े. Next question. देखते हैं who can solve this. 2 comma infinity बोला है तो 0 नहीं है. But if I put x equals to 0, it is what? 6 minus 2, 4 greater than 0. So clearly तुम्हारा आंसर तो गलत है. Same goes for Prajwal, same goes for Mayank. Mayank x equals to 0 तो clearly satisfy कर रहा है. तो inequality का beauty is you can yourself cross check your answers. Right? X equals to 0 is satisfying. X tending to infinity satisfy कर रहा है. X को minus infinity डालूंगा तो minus infinity का square is infinity square. Infinity square minus infinity is still infinity. Infinity plus 6 is always greater than 0. So minus infinity भी इसमें satisfy कर रहा है. So please recheck your answers by putting in some values of x. ऐसा CAT में भी करना है. Okay, चलो. Let's see how do we solve this. Inequality में guys, you cannot afford to make a mistake because you yourself can go and check your answers. Answer देने से पहले एक बार check करो कि क्या ये सही आंसर है क्या. Right? There'll be 2 cases here. Because जब भी मॉड्यूलस होता है सब्जेक्टिव सॉल्व करना है, 2 केसेस बनाने पड़ेंगे, x ग्रेटर देन इक्वल्स टू 2 और x लेस देन 2. ग्रेटर देन इक्वल्स टू 2 के अंदर मॉड्यूलस विल ओपन पॉजिटिव, तो x स्क्वायर माइनस x माइनस माइनस 2 इज प्लस 2, सो प्लस 8 ग्रेटर देन 0. x लेस देन 2 के अंदर मॉड्यूलस विल ओपन नेगेटिव, तो प्लस x प्लस 4 इज ग्रेटर देन 0. ये 2 इक्वेशन बनेगी मेरी, राइट. नाउ हाउ डू आई चेक. यहाँ पे a is greater than 0, d इसका डिस्क्रिमिनेंट कितना है, b स्क्वायर 1 minus 4ac, 4 into 8 is 32. d is less than 0 and a is positive, which means this number is always going to be positive. ये हमने पढ़ा था, राइट. अगर a पॉजिटिव है इसका मतलब graph is facing upward and d is less than 0, which means there is no solution, right? So the graph will always be positive. इसका a is greater than 0, d is less than 0. सिमिलरली इसका डिस्क्रिमिनेंट कितना है, बी स्क्वायर माइनस 4 4 16, इसका भी डी नेगेटिव है, सो ये हमेशा 0 ग्रेटर देन 0 होगा, ये हमेशा ग्रेटर देन 0 होगा, व्हिच मींस x could be anything. x greater than equals to 2y or less than 2y, it will always satisfy the range. So the answer is x belongs to R. No need to check. No more casual mistakes, Mayank. चलो, all this. अब level is increasing. fx को मिनिमम करना है तुम्हें, तो फाइंड द वैल्यू ऑफ x. सी, जब भी इस तरीके से हो जाए, राइट, बिकॉज आई डोंट एक्सपेक्ट, जो भी कैट का कन्वीनर है, ही ऑल्सो डजंट एक्सपेक्ट यू टू सॉल्व इट यूजिंग x ग्रेटर देन 9, x 5 और 9 से बीच में, x 2 और 5 के बीच में, और x लेस देन 2. दैट इज द सब्जेक्टिव वे. 4 केसेस बनाओ, चेक करो कि कहाँ पे क्या वैल्यू आ रहा है, एंड देन सॉल्व. बट वी ऑल आर स्मार्टर पीपल, वी नो हमारा रिप्रेजेंटेशन क्या होता है. व्हाट इज मॉड ऑफ x minus 2? मॉड ऑफ x minus 2 इज नथिंग बट x का 2 से डिस्टेंस. तो पहले मैं सारे प्लॉट कर लेता हूँ, राइट. दिस इज व्हाट 2, 5 and 9. Find the value of x for which fx attains a minimum value. So fx क्या है? fx is nothing but this is your x, right? So fx क्या है? fx is x का 2 से डिस्टेंस, x का 5 से डिस्टेंस एंड x का 9 से डिस्टेंस. ये डिस्टेंस को मुझे मिनिमाइज करना है. अभी अगर x यहां कहीं हुआ, राइट, अगर x is से ग्रेटर देन 9, देन ऑफ कोर्स से यहां पे गई है x, राइट. तो x का 2 से डिस्टेंस कितना हो जाएगा? The distance of x from 2 will be at least 7 plus, because distance between 2 and 9 is 7, and अगर if x is greater than 9, of course distance of that x from 2 will be greater than 7, और x का 9 से भी distance कुछ हो जाएगा, something positive, right? तो यहाँ से एटलीस्ट इतना तो निकल के आ रहा है कि यार x has to be between 2 and 9, because if x is anywhere between 2 and 9, say this is the value of x, right? तो इसका 2 कितना होगा? Someone is joining now, okay. Yes. So if x is anywhere between 2 and 9, the distance of x from 2 will be this, whatever it is, and the distance of this x from 9 will be this. In total मुझे पता है अगर x 2 और 9 के बीच में होगा तो this total distance is going to be 7 only, right? So distance of x from 2 and 9 minimum could be 7 if x is anywhere between 2 and 9. तो चलो मेरा ये तो क्लियर हो गया कि यार x का 2 से डिस्टेंस एंड x का 9 से डिस्टेंस इज ऑलवेज गोइंग टू बी 7 ओनली इफ x इज बिटवीन 2 एंड 9. अभी मुझे x का 5 के साथ भी डिस्टेंस को मिनिमाइज करना है, तो मैं x को यहां लूं चाहे यहां लूं, कहीं पे भी ले लूं मैं x की वैल्यू, दैट विल ऑलवेज हैव सम डिस्टेंस विद x. सो इफ आई हैव टू मिनिमाइज द डिस्टेंस विद x of x with 5, I will take x on 5 itself. So if x is 5, then the distance of x from 5 will be 0. And because this is here, the distance from 2 and the distance from 9 will be nothing but 7. So the minimum distance will be 7 when x is equals to 5. So my answer becomes 5. Clear? So when x is 5, the distance will be 0 and the distance from 2 and 9 will be 7. So x has to be 5. So just visualize inequality expressions in the form of distance and then it's simple. Everyone clear with this?